Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 35 female, grew up in a family where favoritism just wasn't obvious. It was celebrated. My younger sister, Claire, 32 female, has always been the golden child. From the moment she was born, my parents were completely enchanted by her. She was undeniably beautiful, with shiny blonde hair, flawless skin, and the kind of charm that could win anyone over. By comparison, I was the smart one, the responsible one, the one who didn't turn heads, but was expected to keep everything together. Claire's beauty was the centerpiece of our family narrative. My parents would gush about how special she was, how she was destined for greatness. They encouraged her every whim, whether it was dance classes, expensive clothes, or extravagant birthday parties. Meanwhile, I was the quiet, bookish older sister who got hand-me-downs and vague acknowledgments like, "Good job on your grades, honey." Growing up, I tried to ignore the blatant favoritism. I loved Claire, I really did. She was my little sister, and I wanted to protect her. But as we got older, it became clear that she wasn't just the favorite. She was the standard against which I was constantly judged. In college, I met Ethan, now 36 male. He was kind, ambitious, and everything I thought I wanted in a partner. We dated for 3 years before getting married, and for a while, it felt like I'd finally found my own slice of happiness. Ethan wasn't just my husband, he was my best friend. My parents seemed thrilled when we got married. They adored Ethan, perhaps a little too much. My mom would constantly praise him, calling him such a catch, and telling me how lucky I was to have him. At first, I thought it was sweet, but then the comparison started. "You know, Claire would have made a beautiful couple with Ethan," my mom once said offhandedly, as if it were an innocent observation. "Imagine the kids they'd have." I laughed it off, assuming she was joking, but similar comments kept coming. "Ethan and Claire are so alike," she'd say. Or, "It's too bad Claire didn't meet Ethan first." Even Claire joined in, teasingly saying, "You really did well for yourself, sis." A couple of years into our marriage, Ethan and I decided to start a family. When nothing happened after a year of trying, we saw a fertility specialist and were told we were dealing with unexplained infertility. It was devastating, but we didn't give up. We went through 2 rounds of IVF, both of which failed. Each failure felt like a punch to the gut, a reminder of how broken I felt. The emotional toll was enormous, but what made it worse was my parents' reaction. Instead of supporting me, they turned my infertility into a spectacle. "Such a shame," my mom would say, shaking her head like I was a disappointment. "Claire would have had no trouble getting pregnant." My dad wasn't much better. "Maybe you're just too stressed. Claire never lets things get to her," he once said, as if my inability to conceive was a personal failing. Claire, to her credit, didn't actively join in, but she didn't defend me either. She just shrugged and said, "Well, some people aren't meant to have kids, I guess." The pressure reached a boiling point after our second failed IVF attempt. I was emotionally drained, but Ethan seemed even more distant than usual. One evening, he came home and sat me down. He looked exhausted, like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The pressure, the constant failures, it's too much. I feel like I'm losing myself." I stared at him, struggling to process his words. "What are you saying?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I think we need to separate," he said, avoiding my gaze. "I need to figure out who I am without all of this hanging over me." I knew he wasn't just talking about infertility. My parents' relentless comments about Claire had seeped into our marriage like poison. While Ethan never admitted it, I could tell their words had planted a seed of doubt in his mind. Maybe he did think he'd chosen the wrong sister. When Ethan left, my world fell apart. I felt like I'd failed, not just as a wife, but as a person. And yet, my parents didn't offer any comfort. Instead, they acted like it was no big deal. "Well, maybe it's for the best," my mom said. "Now Ethan can find someone who's a better fit." She didn't say it outright, but I knew she meant Claire. That was the moment I realized I couldn't stay in my hometown. Between my parents' toxicity and the constant reminders of my failed marriage, I needed to leave. I applied for jobs in other states, and when I landed a position in a new city, I packed my bags and left. I blocked my parents and Claire on everything and vowed never to look back. Starting over was hard. I spent months rebuilding my life from the ground up. But slowly, I found my footing. I focused on my career, made new friends, and started to feel like myself again. 2 years later, I met James, 38 male, a kind and supportive man who treated me like an equal. When I told him about my infertility struggles, he didn't flinch. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together," he said. To my amazement, I got pregnant naturally a year after we got married. Seeing those 2 pink lines felt like a miracle. After years of feeling broken, I finally felt whole again. I won't lie, pregnancy was very hard on me emotionally, as I was in constant fear to lose the baby. But everything went well, and we welcomed an amazing little girl into the world. Earlier this year, my best friend, Anna, invited me to her wedding in my hometown. At first, I hesitated. I hadn't been back in years, and the thought of seeing my parents made my stomach churn. But Anna was like a sister to me, and I didn't want to miss her big day. James encouraged me to go, saying it would be good for me to show how far I'd come. We arrived with our 6-month-old daughter, Lily, the day before the wedding. I was nervous, but excited to catch up with old friends and introduce them to my beautiful family. For the first time in years, I felt proud of the life I'd built. At the wedding, everything was going smoothly until I spotted my parents across the room. My mom's eyes widened when she saw me holding Lily, and before I could react, she was rushing toward us. "Oh my goodness, is this my granddaughter?" she exclaimed, reaching out as if she had any right to touch my child. I stepped between her and Lily, my voice calm but firm. "Don't you even dare." My mom looked shocked, but then her expression hardened. "She's our granddaughter," she said indignantly, as if that erased all the pain they'd caused me. "She's my daughter," I said, glaring at her. "And you lost the right to be part of my life when you drove my first husband away and treated me like I didn't matter." My dad tried to intervene, saying, "Let's not make a scene," but I wasn't having it. "You don't get to play the role of doting grandparents after everything you've done," I said. "Stay away from my family." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving them standing there, stunned. After the wedding, I learned through mutual friends that Claire is still single and childless. Apparently, my parents have been putting immense pressure on her to settle down and give them grandchildren. But Claire isn't interested in marriage or kids right now. The irony isn't lost on me. The golden child they put all their hopes on isn't fulfilling their expectations, and now they're desperate to latch on to my family. Predictably, my parents have taken to social media to play the victims. They've been posting tearful messages about how I'm heartless and cruel for keeping Lily away from them. My mom wrote, "We made mistakes, but doesn't every family deserve a second chance?" I've been bombarded with messages from relatives and acquaintances telling me to forgive and forget for the sake of family. But where was that energy when I needed their support during my first marriage? Where was it when they were tearing me down to lift Claire up? So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my parents see my daughter after everything they put me through? OP's parents actively harmed OP during one of the most vulnerable times in her life. They didn't just fail to support OP. They actively sabotaged her happiness with their toxic favoritism. Now that their golden child isn't meeting their expectations, they want to use OP's daughter to rewrite history. Good on OP for standing her ground. OP is protecting Lily from the same emotional aggression OP endured, and that makes OP a great mom. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Your parents don't deserve a second chance. They had plenty of chances, and they blew every single one. They prioritized Claire over you at every turn, and now they're facing the consequences. You're not heartless. You're setting boundaries. If they want to cry on social media, let them. Anyone who truly knows you will understand the truth. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. The fact that your parents never acknowledged their role in your first marriage's failure says everything. They only care about appearances, not about genuinely making amends. Protect your peace, and don't let anyone guilt you into reopening that door. Lily deserves better, and so do you. Good for you for standing up to your parents. They sabotaged your first marriage, ignored your pain, and now they want to swoop in and act like nothing happened? Absolutely not. You've built a beautiful life for yourself, and you owe them nothing. Not the a-hole. And Lily is lucky to have a mom who knows how to protect her family from toxicity. 2 years ago, I got married to a wonderful and intelligent woman. She's a surgeon. Her father is a very successful artist. He's done well and earns a great deal of money. In addition to my wife, the oldest, he has 3 sons, Larry, Mo, and Curly, and a daughter, sister-in-law, the youngest. My father-in-law, Phil, is in his mid-60s, still going strong, and enjoys his work and doesn't want to stop for another 5 to 6 years. He has enough put away that he could live comfortably for the rest of his life. My sister-in-law is the youngest at 22 and in university as a pre-law student. Her father pays for everything: tuition, books, an apartment, car, fuel, a food allowance, etc. The two of them fight constantly. Phil is divorced. Both parties were having affairs, from sister-in-law's mother. Well, sister-in-law was already upset at Phil as he took her credit card away after she tried to buy a last-minute business class seat home from Greece. Another entitled story. Well, even though it's been 4 years since they divorced, she hasn't quite accepted that her father is okay to see other women and is very catty about them. Phil has an older brother, Jeff, who was the consummate bachelor. Well, Jeff's finally decided that at the age of 67 to settle down and tie the knot. They're having the ceremony in a stave church in Norway, where their family heritage dates back to. But when Phil announced that he was going to fly out to his only brother's wedding, sister-in-law lost it. She started yelling that he was spending her inheritance and it was wrong. She launched into this huge tirade about how he went to Canada, New York, etc. Half the trips were business-related. She then tried to convince her 3 brothers and my wife to back her and that he needs to not go to save her inheritance. She actually, I kid you not, said, "You're spending my money." Then threw a small tantrum when nobody would back her. My wife took her into the other room and sternly explained that the money belonged to Phil and none of them had any right to it. She seemed to calm down and came up with a compromise. He could take her too, and they could spend a couple weeks in Norway. This started an even bigger argument, as Curly thought it was a great idea and he could go too. Larry, Mo, and my wife tried to point out that due to the church size and remoteness, only Phil was invited. Everything ended when sister-in-law drove off crying because we were being mean to her and her father was going to make her poor. If you're wondering what I did during this little escapade, I stayed my happy self in the kitchen next door preparing dinner where I could listen, but not be in the line of fire. If it was me, she would definitely get told that I wasn't spending her inheritance. I'd already put that $100 in a drawer safely. I was so frustrated by my sister-in-law's behavior regarding my wedding that I ended up reading a whole collection of posts on entitled wedding guests and realized that she fit right in with those. My partner and I decided to ask his niece to be a junior bridesmaid so as to avoid problems with family politics. The first sign of drama was when her mother, my sister-in-law, suggested that I make her my junior maid of honor because she had a special relationship with me, more so, apparently, than the other junior bridesmaids. This was news to me, and what the duck even is that? Then I was asked to give her a job to do, so she felt important. I wasn't keen on this because of the added complexity, but nevertheless figured something out to avoid problems. A couple of months down the track, when nothing had been done, I queried it and was told that she was completely overwhelmed and suffering extreme anxiety, and the burden I had placed on her was unfair. The job? Choosing from a selection of 3 different earrings for the junior bridesmaids, which I had confirmed with her mother was appropriate before asking. I apologized, with a lot of eye-rolling, and withdrew the job. I was then accused of not making her feel important enough. I was then asked by sister-in-law if I could arrange to have robes for my bridesmaids because her daughter wanted them, and it was specified to me what slogan should be on them. I was livid and refused, but was then told that sister-in-law would buy one for only her daughter if I wouldn't do it. So I went out and organized the robes so I wasn't forced with a situation of 2 other little girls sobbing because they missed out and that brat prancing around rubbing their noses in it. And also, so I didn't end up with a tacky slogan designed by an 11-year-old. Then we got to the food. His niece wanted McDonald's at the reception. I explained that this would not be possible, that the restaurant would not allow external food to be brought in. And frankly, neither would I, because unless a guest has a medical issue, it's just downright rude. I was told that she had to be allowed to get McDonald's because that's all she'll eat and she couldn't go hungry. I told her it simply wasn't possible. Sister-in-law then threatened not to attend the wedding if we wouldn't accommodate her daughter. I removed them from the bridal party and told them where to go. The response? So, what are you going to do about the food? Update. The wedding hasn't happened yet, so I foresee more dramas before it does, and I will update as it does. She's been told that there's no room to move on the food and to deal with it herself. She's also been told not to sabotage it for the other junior bridesmaids, which is something I am worried about now that she will see her daughter is actually excluded from the whole thing. I also think the crap will hit the fan when it becomes clear they are still getting all the party favors. I doubt they will come, and I don't think she had any intention of attending unless her daughter could be the center of attention. It really is like her daughter is the bride with all the demands. I would uninvite her myself and have been harsher earlier, but she is my partner's only living close adult relative. He has his kids, but they are children, so it's different, and it is important to him that she attend. He has been through a lot in the last couple of years, and it's important to me that I look after him and that he's happy. So I'm happy to take on the burden of dealing with issues and to make sacrifices, to a point. The junior bridesmaid of honor situation was particularly appalling, because if anyone would be promoted to that, it would be his daughter, not his niece. But still, what the duck? I've never even heard of such a thing. Sister-in-law is extremely entitled and thinks the whole world revolves around her, and I think she's teaching her daughter the same thing. There was another incident with the dresses that I had completely forgotten about. I did not want traditional bridesmaids, so I had told everyone that they could choose a dress they really wanted, pursuant to coordinating it with me, so it was all appropriate and they all worked together. I was also happy to pay for the outfits because I really don't like the expectation that people participate in a wedding pursuant to my requirements and have to spend their own money to do so, especially when it's an expensive wedding. I said 3 things: no navy, no shoulder, no splits. Sister-in-law, also a bridesmaid, without checking with me, went and bought herself a one-shoulder navy dress with a side split. It clashed with my sister's dress, the actual maid of honor, and the junior bridesmaid dresses. My mother, sister, and I spent hours and hours reorganizing the other dresses to make it work. Not just to match her, but because she looked like the damn maid of honor instead of my sister. We also pissed thousands of dollars up against the wall doing this. I was petrified that if I told her not to wear that dress, she would just do it to spite me. And we decided to keep my sister's new dress private so she couldn't get something else to upstage her again. I am lucky because we are in a financial position to do this. We're not zillionaires, but we both have well-paying jobs and investments. But I certainly resented it, and that is not something that is usually possible for people. I'm tempted now to send her a bill. It's like your sister-in-law thinks she's the bride. You do your wedding your way, hon. If your significant other won't have your back for this, he needs to know that either he handles his family when they get entitled to anything of yours, you and your hubby's things, or you will. My husband goes up to bat for me with his family, except one auntie, who keeps asking when we'll have kids. He needs to tell her we're not having any. And before I went no contact with my mother, I even told him he had my blessing to tell her she can wait until he's not working to fix her damn computer at one point. We're really an odd couple in a lot of ways, but your response to her, "So what are you going to do about the food?" I hope will be, "You're welcome to swing by there and eat in your car before coming inside to just mingle." It's not a part of your wedding plans. It's not your bill to foot. I once went to a Catholic Vietnamese wedding and knew traditional Vietnamese food would be served, and I could likely not eat any of it. So after all the vows, we swung by a Chick-fil-A for me. I ate in the car, then waited through 10 courses for cake at the restaurant. I don't regret my choice because jellyfish salad was on the menu, so she can get it on her own dime and eat it before coming in. I was at my sister's the other day, and during dinner we started talking about entitled and crappy clients. We both work with the public, and we like to hear about insane entitled customers. I work for a department of the government that deals with unemployment and financial help during the whole pandemic. My sister works for the transport service of our city. So we have some pretty good stories. But this one is just over the top. This one is about a coworker. It happened before the whole quarantine, and her being newly pregnant made her remember this story. During her break, one of her colleagues announced to her that she was pregnant. My sister, being the kind and supportive person that she was, congratulated her and offered to cover some of her shifts if she ever needed to take a day off to go to the doctor or something. The woman immediately asked for my sister to cover her shift for the next week because she was going to have an A. Cue the awkward moment. My sister agreed and didn't pry into the woman's business. She figured that it must be a difficult decision and that she had enough hard time as it was without having someone pry into her private affairs. The week goes by and my sister covers for her coworker and everything is fine. Then, the week after that, the woman comes back to my sister and asks her to cover for her once more. Apparently, she had to cancel her first appointment because her husband had found out about the whole thing. He didn't even know she was pregnant. Entitled mother. That jerk froze our accounts, and now I can't pay for my A. I can't have this baby, and he won't let me do it. Sister. I'm sorry. Maybe give him some time and explain your reasons. He just found out that you were pregnant. It must be a shock for him. Entitled mother. Honestly, it's like he doesn't care that I don't want another daughter. He yells at me like I'm the bad guy. Sister. Wait, what do you mean? Entitled mother. I already have 3 daughters. I don't want another one. If I'm going to have another baby, I want it to be a boy. But once I find out the gender, it's too late to have an A. I don't want to take the risk. I already have it so hard with 3 girls. I can't take another one. Boys are so much less trouble. So I made another appointment in secret, and I'll just tell him I miscarried. Thanks for covering for me. Sister. I don't have words for it. I just can't condone this. If you want to have an A because of the risk of your health, or because you don't have the financial resources or something serious like that, I can understand and won't judge. But this, no. Please, find someone else. This is so wrong. Entitled mother. But you said you would help me. Sister. Yeah, when I thought you really needed it. You were planning on having an A because of the possible gender of your child behind your husband's back. I want no part of this. After that, my sister left and made sure to ignore her. Coworker would keep insisting for her help. At the end of the week, the woman left in a rage with her husband. My sister doesn't know what was said or what happened between the couple, just that the coworker came back to work the next week and kept glaring at her. Eventually, she left on maternity leave and never came back. This story shocked me so much. Her personal decision of having an A because she wants a boy over a girl is her own and not my business. What shocks me was that she was doing it behind her husband's back and then lied about it, saying it was a miscarriage, is just repulsive to me. Edit. I asked my sister last night to see if she could find out some info on what happened, as I was pretty curious. She just got off the phone with a coworker that was close to the couple. Whoa. First, the woman went ahead and got the A anyway. She lied about the maternity leave to hide the fact that she had quit herself. No one knows why. Worse was the fact that the entire office had pulled together to give her a huge basket with baby food and diapers to help her. Second, her husband never knew about the A until he received his credit card statement. Apparently, his wife had taken his card to pay for the procedure and he never even knew. He was so pissed, he kicked her out of the house. Third, had the woman simply told her husband, he would have agreed to the A. He didn't want to have another child either and would have been supportive of her decision, if she had talked to him about it first. He never got to give his input or opinion of the whole situation because every time he kept trying to talk about it, she would refuse to do so. Now they are in the middle of a messy and vicious divorce proceedings. She ruined her marriage because she went behind her husband's back. If she had been honest about the whole thing, she would not be in this situation. Boys and girls are equally difficult to raise. It just depends on your own personal fortitude and the child themselves that makes one easier to deal with than the other. She wanted to make an A because of the gender of her child. Like, what the hell? Normally, I am always your body, your business, but this just feels insane. I am for A. Again, as I said, your body, your business. There are a lot of good reasons why people do it. The most important for me is that it is in the best interest of their child and the parents, mother. But just because of the possibility that she gets another girl, that is like putting all the fault into that small human, which can't even do anything for it. My wedding is in less than a month, and everything is ready. My bridesmaids will wear a royal blue color on their dresses. One of my bridesmaids is a coworker of mine. I picked her as a bridesmaid because she's the closest coworker I have. I don't have many friends except 2 close ones. I have 4 bridesmaids in total: my coworker, my 2 friends, and my sister. My older sister is my maid of honor. Anyway, my coworker is from a different culture, and she moved into my country 3 years ago. She lost her grandpa 1 week ago, and in their culture, the mourning period lasts for 40 days. My wedding will be before the 40 days are over, and culturally, my coworker claims she has to mourn and wear black. I asked her if the royal blue dress can be an exception, since it's not necessarily a bright color. She said it will be an issue, and she doesn't want to disrespect her culture and traditions. She asked if she can return the dress and get the same one in black instead. I said I'm not comfortable with it because she'd look out of place. She agreed and asked if she could skip on being a bridesmaid then. I asked her if she'd still wear black, and she said culturally she has to honor that. I said that I'm not that comfortable with the idea of her coming to my wedding during her mourning period, so it's best if I uninvite her altogether so she can mourn in peace. She said I don't have to uninvite her, but simply let her wear black. I insisted it's for the best for both of us. My friends and my sisters told me it's probably an a-hole move to uninvite her, even if my intentions are good. And now I'm thinking about it. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I have a dress code against black clothing at the wedding. Yes, the a-hole. Your intentions aren't good at all. Stop lying to yourself. You're just shallow. I guess I can kind of understand not wanting a bridesmaid to wear black, but a guest? When you know the reason? This is self-centered and gross. Not the a-hole for removing her as a bridesmaid, but yes, the a-hole for uninviting her altogether because of a black dress.